Hi, this is Tracy Taylor with the Wasatch Taxpayers Association. We are doing candidate interviews for the primary election in 2019, and today we have Brady Flygare, who is running for Heber City Council. And Brady, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, why you decided to run, and some information on where people can go to learn more about you.
You bet. My wife and my family moved up here about 2.5 years ago. We were down in St. George for about 10 or 12 years with a couple years stint up in Washington State. I grew up in Orem. My wife, she grew up in Las Vegas. And she's a teacher with a master's degree in literacy education, so she keeps our family educated and alive, and she's awesome. My grandpa, he grew up here in Heber. He's a Flygare, and they were adopted into the Giles family back in the late 30s. He remembers getting in the wagon when he was 3 years old down in Provo and getting out of it in Heber, and then he grew up here. So.
And what do you do for a living?
I'm the director of operations for a nonprofit healthcare company. We manage and own nursing homes and assisted livings and independent living senior apartments. Yeah. And so we've got about 400 employees that we work with and that I'm over, and about 350 residents and patients that we work with and make sure they're taken care of and get good quality care and make sure their concerns are met.
Great. And do you have a website where people can learn more? We'll do that up front in case we run out of time.
It's my name, bradyflygare.org. We're going to join our Facebook group. I think it's Brady Flygare for Heber City Council. So join us there, and we post sporadically, not all the time, but the website's probably the best place to get information.
Great, great. First question is, what do you think the role of the Heber City Council should be? Do you believe that the council should be directing all expenditures and policies and giving direction to the city manager and the staff? Or do you believe that the city council is a little bit more passive in the sense that they get the recommendations from the staff and then, you know, they follow through on the recommendations that are brought to them?
And my view is there's got to be a sensible mix of both. I mean, you hire a city manager and hire staff because they're professionals, they know what they do. They know what they're doing, they're educated in their field, so you have to give them the autonomy to do their jobs and to do it under the direction of the city council. The city council represents the city citizens or elected officials that represent the voice of the citizens. Now, if the other people are hired, they're hired to do a job. They're not hired to necessarily represent the citizens. They're hired to run the city, which is it's a corporation. And so we need to keep that in mind, that the city council is actually the voice of the citizens, and they're the ones that should be running the city because they live here and they actually own the city. And the city manager and the city staff, they work for the citizens, they work for the city council. So that's how I feel it should be directed. Again, a lot of those things you would default to their experience for, what the potential of certain actions would be, and then you got to weigh the pros and cons of those potentials. You can also look at different cities and things that they've done also, but I think there's definitely got to be a mix of both. Where you need to be passive, where they have the expertise and you agree with what they're doing, and the council approves of what they're doing. But you also need to know when to direct it as far as what the citizens want their city to look like.
How do you feel about expenditures coming, through the city, and then also the policy decisions that need to be made? Where should that be originated from?
The policies should definitely be originated from the city council, and they should be the ones that enact the policies and ordinances and change the ordinances and the codes. And then the staff, is directed to follow those codes. Again, the city council is the elected entity. And so they should be following what they direct. As far as expenditures go, I'm always comfortable with thresholds. If there's anything above $3,000, $5,000, $10,000, whatever it is that the council deems necessary, then the council should make those decisions. If there's anything under that, then the city staff should have the authority and the autonomy to make those decisions. That way you get quicker decisions and usually a better result that way.
Okay. There's going to be a couple questions I'm going to ask that are pretty straightforward yes or no questions. Okay. And I think this time in Heber City's growth, is a time when I think the citizens really want to know a yes or no question, if at all possible.
Okay.
So, you know, I'm going to ask you right off the bat on the airport.
Okay.
That's a big issue for most Heber City and the whole Wasatch Valley, Wasatch County, Heber Valley area. It's a very big issue. I need to ask you if you would ever consider voting to enlarge or enhance or expand the airport?
If it's a yes or no question, I would say no. Can I talk about the airport a little bit?
Sure. And you know, they are going to do a master plan for the airport, but my question to you is, what would it have to say that would make you think it was necessary to expand? And you know, we're gonna hold candidates to
First of all, I
decisions.
love the airport.
Yeah.
Okay? The airport's in our backyard. Our son, he flew in an airplane a couple weeks ago, one of the open cockpit ones. He had an amazing experience, and pilots are some of the nicest people you'll ever meet. At the same time, my view and all the citizens' view that I've heard is that they don't want the airport expanded. They don't want bigger planes coming in and more frequent planes coming in. Noise, air pollution, all the stuff that comes with it. And so, my feeling, my stand is I think that the airport master plan needs to be done. It's a business plan, and so that's fine. We do the master plan. And then after that, that's when the decisions need to be made. So if the master plan comes back saying that we need to expand the airport 25 feet one way, 25 feet another way, we need to do this, we need to do that to continue the FAA funding, that's when the decisions need to be made. My feeling is 5 people on the city council is too small of a number to make that decision. I think it needs to be a public vote on what we do at the airport. And it's not do we expand or do we not, but it's do we expand or maybe 2 or 3 other options. Do we sell the airport land? Do we close down? We're not in the airport business. Do we move the airport? Based on what the vote goes and how the citizens feel, because the citizens' airport, it's a Heber City airport, Heber City citizens own the city, so they own the airport. They should have a lot more say on what happens with the airport. As far as the airport management goes, we've got great managers over there. I'd like to see the fees decrease a little bit for local residents, actually. So you get some of the more activity there with the smaller planes. And again, it's the city's airport. We should be paying a less fee, maybe a locals rate. I told you my wife Brooke, she's from Las Vegas. They have locals discounts for all the shows and the other activities that happen there. The same thing should happen here, and the local citizens should be able to take advantage of that airport. And you offset the revenue with the bigger planes that are coming in and charging more. So.
Well, and even some people have brought up the fact that maybe we do a bond, a county-wide bond, to help pay for the maintenance and operations in case the FAA is forcing our hands. So that's just another creative way of thinking about this.
Could be, and again, that's something that the citizens would vote on.
Right.
And that way you could actually hear the voice of the citizens and make decisions that way. And
Great.
So I think all options should be on the table with it, but the master plan, it's essential and it's a business plan. That's when the decisions need to be made, is after we get the data back from that master plan.
And so it would be a no vote unless what? Unless what comes back, would there be
I would
any
say,
reason for you to vote for it?
I would say you have to look at the impact of the valley and impact of the citizens. If there would be a greater impact, that would be an automatic no vote, right? If there wouldn't be any impact, if it's increased the runway 10 feet for safety for the planes that are existing, and it's not going to cause any more traffic, then you can look at that. But again, I don't think anybody wants anything that will bring in larger planes and more frequent planes. Now, talking with the airport managers, said the larger planes are a lot quieter than the smaller ones. They're the ones that make all the noise. They're also the ones that bring the pollution too, and they don't use any services in Heber. They get in their cars, they drive out to Park City. So that's why I think, again, all options need to be on the table, but it's the city airport, the city citizens need to make the decision on what happens with that.
Okay.
And the city council and the mayor need to make sure they're getting that input from the city on the direction to take it.
Okay, great. The bypass is another big one. In fact, I know that's probably why you maybe decided to run, was your involvement with this bypass issue in the last 6 to 9 months or so. Are you for a bypass? Do you think we need a bypass? And being in the last UDOT meeting, I'm a little hesitant to say which route do you prefer, because I don't know we have that capability of deciding that. I think that's a UDOT decision. But give me an idea of how you feel about the bypass and maybe, you know, what you experienced in these last few months that, you know, influenced your decisions on it.
I think first of all, I need to look, is it necessary? I think that the city officials, and maybe city management, I don't know the details on it, but I think that there's been things that we could do to manage the current traffic better that hasn't been done. If you look at the 2003 master plan, they consider one-way streets to offset traffic going down Main Street. They consider a lot of other things that just haven't been implemented. And so my feeling is that, you know, we're thinking that this bypass is going to be a savior to the traffic in Heber, and I don't think that's the case. And I think, honestly, we need to do our due diligence as a city to do those things that are in the 17-year-old master plan that we haven't done until now. So if you look at that, I think, you know, you look at the numbers right now, we're running 30,000 cars a day. In 2050, so another 30 years, they're anticipating 39,000 cars a day on Highway 40. That's really only a 30% increase, I think. And so, you know, to me, I don't know if that necessitates $150 to a $200 million road to bypass Main Street, especially where you have the Sorensen annexation and the other annexations that are taking the growth that's taking place on the north end of the valley. What's it bypassing? Is it going to just bypass downtown, then get you out back on Highway 40 onto an 8-lane highway up there? I mean, what's the purpose of it? Should UDOT pay for it? I don't think so. I mean, honestly, as a city, they're doing it for the city downtown. I think it was Senator Winterton, or Congressman Winterton, whichever he is. Senator.
Mm-hmm.
He said the other day that, you know, when he sees the bypasses, he usually sees the main streets dry up.
Mm-hmm.
Businesses dry up. And so is it going to have an effect on businesses? Absolutely it would. Because it's not going to just be diesels that take that bypass road. It's going to be regular street traffic. And that's the dollars that right now are coming in and through the city. Now, does something need to happen with the trucks? Sure. Nobody likes the trucks. That's when we need to look at the CIB board. Go to them with, you know, our problem. You know, what solutions, what kind of money can you guys give to us? Is there a route down through Indian Canyon to hook the oil onto the railroad to get it up to Salt Lake that way? 4 years ago, they said it would cost $5 billion to do that. Last 6 months ago, they said it'd be $1 billion, and they're looking at doing that. And so that would automatically take the oil trucks off the road. You look at the downtown area right now; it's 2 lanes both ways. There's 6 speed limit signs between 12th South and 5th North. The ones that take it down to 35 miles an hour are right by the city building. Well, that's past most of our downtown area. And so it's really not doing anything to slow down our traffic. I feel like right around 6th South, we need to slow down traffic 25 miles an hour. That way the trucks aren't blazing by people. People will feel a lot safer and to be on those areas.
Well, and that is a U.S. highway, so, you know, we don't have as much control over speed limits there and everything,
but I haven't seen those requests made. And I think the city needs to make those requests because in my experience, UDOT will take those requests and they'll do their best to enact and to take action on it.
Okay.
And so I feel like there's a lot more things we can do as a city to manage the current traffic that we have that will probably last another 20 to 30 years.
And we don't need a bypass then? Is that?
I didn't say that. I didn't say that. I mean, again, the trucks are harsh, but the speed that the trucks are going are harsher. I think if you slowed it down, then that would be a lot better. Now, again, what we've said as we've talked with the city about the bypass is we haven't been anti-bypass. Right now, the current route or the last proposed route that UDOT did was taking it right behind 31 houses, right in their backyards, 55 miles an hour with these rigs going there. If you go stand off of Highway 40 on the north side of town where they're going 55 miles an hour, you can't talk to a person right next to you.
Yeah.
And that would be in our backyards, right, in the 31 people's backyards. And really there's, I think, 350 houses within that quarter-mile area. So it would have a big impact. So what I would recommend is having a route that has the least amount of impact for the existing community members. To us, that's utilizing the existing Highway 189 down to the Southfield Road area that the county has bought up as property. We just feel like that would, you know, prevent UDOT from tearing up a good road and replanting it a quarter of a mile away.
Okay, we're going to move on. The general plan is being looked at again. We did the Envision 2050 to get public input. My question for you is, what's your philosophy about growth and development? Are you a candidate or a council person that would entertain developers' requests for higher density on whatever property they are allotted? Or are you willing to stick, whatever the general plan ends up becoming after this whole process, are you willing to stick with those current zonings and those current densities and not allow further density? I mean, right now, if we've annexed clear to Highway 32, we've got, 9,000 units up there on its own already approved. So we're gonna grow without increasing density. And so my question to you is, are you willing to make that stand and say, no, we're gonna stick with the current zoning? Why go through a general plan update if you're not gonna stick to it? So that's one of those questions I really want a solid answer on. I think a lot of citizens really want to know how our growth is going to go the next 10, 20 years.
And talking with most of the private citizens, not business citizens that I've talked to, that's been their number one concern, is the growth and the speed of it. And there needs to be more coordination between the city and the county on that growth. Because a lot of times the approvals will get done through the county, then they'll look to be annexed into the city with 80% of the project already being done. I think that the city needs to be involved with that sooner, or the county needs to get the city involved with that sooner. Now, as far as growth goes, I'm not anti-growth. Growth is going to happen. In some places, it's inevitable. It's how we manage it and how we manage it and how it affects the current citizens. And you look 10 to 20 years out to the future too, and you see how it's going to affect the future citizens. Now, am I willing to stand by the Heber 2050 general plan when it's finished? During my experience with that plan and the meetings that I've gone to, the input that we've given has not been taken seriously. It's not been listened to, and we've been told reasons why things can't happen in certain areas. So I think a lot of that's already been done, right? They're trying to probably fill in the gaps of the things that haven't been decided on of where we want. And so, I'm not putting all my eggs in the basket in the 2050 Heber envisioning project, but it will be a general plan, and depending on how it ends up and the total consensus of the city, or is the city happy with it, then you have to follow that. Does that mean that things won't need to be rezoned or relooked at? Things are always going to have to be rezoned and looked at. That's why you have a city council. That's why you have city managers. That's why you have staff to look at those things. But anything that I would do, we want to look at the impact it's going to have on the existing citizens. We want to keep in mind, 20, 30 years down the road for the future. But how is that impacting people that have chosen to live here now and are actually living here now? And and listen to the concerns that they have and act on those concerns. If the majority of the people are telling you not to do something, then you don't go against it and go do it just because you think it's in your best interest or in the city's best interest. The people own the city. You represent those people. And so we need to make sure that we're doing what the people in the city want to be done. Now, again, if it's only a small group of people, then we need to look at that. But if it's better for the city, then we'd have to look at that. But again, I'd be looking to get all the information that we can and the input that we can so we make the right decisions.
So what I'm hearing from you is I've always had this philosophy that there's two different types of politicians. The ones that try to represent their constituents, and others that say, you know what, you elected me, I've got more information than you might have, and you just need to let me do my job. Where do you fall?
In my industry, you have to be transparent. Transparency is the number one thing, because you lose trust if you're not. And so I know there's some things, legality-wise, that probably the city staff can't say to some citizens, and if that's the case, they need to say that. Other than that, the city is owned by the citizens. They should be able to know as much as any of the city officials know. And if they don't, then you need to make sure that they're aware of those things. Not just invite them to meetings, but sit down with them, go over some of the documents with them too. To show them the reason that some things are going in certain directions. One thing that I have seen is some people come late to the parties, and so some decisions have been made 1 year, 2 years, 3 years ago, and now they're actually going into effect, and people are upset about them. And so that puts the council in a hard spot, because they want to do what's best for the citizens, but the citizens weren't aware 3 years ago that this would impact them now. With that being said, I think even when that happens, the council still needs to look at the way that their current decisions are affecting people. So I'll do my best to represent the voice of the citizens, because that's our slogan. People are the priority. The citizens own the city, and the city should represent what the citizens want.
Let me ask you, I'm going to ask every candidate this. Are there any conflicts of interest that you might have moving forward with having this position? So, where do you work? Is there anything where you, every meeting, the mayor starts out the meeting saying, does anybody have a conflict of interest tonight on anything that's on the agenda?
Yeah.
So that's where I'm just...
That's a great question. I looked through the Utah code about the conflict of interest, and we don't have any conflict of interest. A conflict of interest usually stands for personal, what's it called? Personal gain or business or capital gain. And we don't have any of that here. We have our home. My business isn't here. I have an office here, but my business isn't here in Heber. And so again, we're here because this is the best place to raise our family. Mm-hmm. I've wanted to live here for 35 years, and I've tried to talk my wife into living here since we were married 15 years ago, and finally did that. And so we're here because we want to be here. Okay. We choose to be here. And we want to make the best decisions for our city going forward based on what the citizens want. Okay,
and is there one last comment you want to make on maybe something that's of personal interest to you that you would like to work on if you become a city council person? Is there an issue? Is there a something near and dear to your heart that you would like to implement, or you have any ideas on anything you want to see accomplished while you're in office?
Again, I think a lot of the city council job is to make the decisions that represent the city's voices. And I can't tell you 2 years from now what the decisions are going to be. Mm-hmm. And so do I come in there with a main goal? No. I mean, if we look at the transportation stuff, I mean, that's what kind of got us interested in this and involved with this, because we've seen the response to our concerns in our area, and we haven't been happy with those responses. We've been happy with some of them, but on the other end, we see a lot of improvement that can be made. And so I think the biggest thing we can do is make the right decisions that represent the existing people that live here, mm-hmm. and then make this and keep it a great place to live.
Okay, great. Why don't you take just a minute or two and tell the people why they should vote for you?
Well, golly, vote for me if you think that I'll be the best candidate. I know the other 7 people, I think, that are running. I think we're lucky in Heber. We don't have any bad candidates right now, and I think anybody would do a good job. I think that if my views and what I've said today and what you've heard me say in the past, through the newspapers and through our advertisements, if they resonate with you, if you want the council to listen to the existing Heber City citizens, then I would say vote for me, because that's all I want to do. I want to make sure that the citizens always know that they own the city and that the city needs to represent what they want. Mm-hmm. Other than that, the other candidates are great people, and I know that whoever gets elected is going to do a great job. Okay, well, thanks so much, and we'll be doing more of these as the week progresses, and they'll all be on Facebook as soon as they all are completed. So take a look. Thank you. Thanks.